Hey everyone, I've got my tar and feathers ready. You're watching Tech Strong Gang. Hi everyone, it's Alan Schimmel. I'm still in Vegas and it's still hot. But you're watching Tech Strong Gang. We, of course, record Tech Strong Gang day, usually business day before. So it's Friday, though it's your Monday. I hope you've had a great weekend. It's going to be a busy week ahead. We've got a lot of news to go over with you today, including the tar and feathering of the Intel CEO, it appears, as well as a report from Black Hat. And is AI really saving us money in this DevOps space? We'll talk about all those things. Let me introduce you to a great panel we've got to discuss them with. First of all, just back from picking up her birthday present, we're not going to tell you what it is. It's a surprise. Tracy Ragan, Mitch Ashley, Jack Poller, and of course the Dean Mike Vizard. Hey gang, how are you today?
Great. Good. Glad to be here.
You know, for our audience out there, I hope you caught the last 2 days of last week's Tech Strong Gang, because there were special gang episodes that we did here out in Vegas. And rather than having the usual gang, I actually spoke to people at booths and stuff in Vegas. If you didn't catch them, they're available on the YouTube TV channel, Tech Strong TV YouTube, Tech Strong TV, or TechStrong.tv, or our Tech Strong TV OTT channel. But we're here about Monday, though. Mike, it's a busy Monday. Kick it off.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen anything quite like this, but the President of the United States is reaching out to share his opinion about who should be the CEO of Intel. And
go ahead.
And, you know, that has something to do with the whole tariff fight. And then there's an argument about whether or not Intel wants to be in the foundry business. And there's all kinds of backstory going on here. But Alan, let's start with you on this thing. I mean, it does seem, shall we say, a little surprisingly disjointed and maybe intrusive.
So, Mike, I have in my hand here a paper. Right? Anybody remember those lines? Anybody remember? We're not old enough to remember those words.
Joe McCarthy.
But that's Joe McCarthy. He never showed what was in the paper, but he had in his hand here a paper. And in that paper in his hand, people's careers were blotted out. People's lives were ruined. Until someone finally stood up and said, "Have you no decency, sir?"
Mm-hmm.
Have you no decency? This president didn't opine that Intel CEO should resign. He demanded it by royal fiat. We fought a war in this country not to be ruled by kings who get to tell us that. Right? This is a private company. What goes on between their board, and we could discuss what their board and this CEO says. But what we've got here is Senator Tom Cotton, who's gone off on haywire trips before, says he believes, or it's come to his attention, or he has a paper in his hand, that the Intel CEO has some connections to the Chinese Communist Party, some companies he did business with or connected to the CPP, or the CCP, excuse me. Look, if you've ever done business in China, you've done business with the Chinese Communist Party. They control the whole lock, stock, and barrel. When we had DevOps Institute, we had a very big partner in China. Very nice people. They came here to Boca Raton. I hung out with them. I went to China 3 times and met with them. And then I realized why a 36-year-old man there, less than that, maybe 32, was running such a big operation. And then one day, one of his people told me his colonel was big in the party. That's how stuff gets done in China. We could not do business in China because it happens like that. But to make these allegations, and we didn't even give the guy a chance to defend himself. It may very well be that innocent, But to make these allegations and then immediately before the ink is dry on the paper in his hand, if there's any ink on that paper, have the president demand that this guy resign right now. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I'm not ready to put on my brown shirt and march in lockstep just yet. That's not America. That's not what we do here. We don't run the guy out of town, tar and feathered on a rail. On top of that, it's not just about, and I don't even remember the CEO's name now, Yang Gao Tan or whatever. It's about Intel itself. This is the only American company making chips here. They're in a delicate phase where they're literally teetering on life or death. And this is this is like pushing someone off the cliff, or someone's extending a hand to get pulled out of the water and you turn your back on them. Worse than that, turn the hose on them. Right? This is, it's bad business on top of everything else. The other thing, and I mentioned it in the article I wrote, as much as it pains me to say this, if this guy's name was Smith or Jones and he looked like us on here, I don't know if we'd be so quick to judgment, to rush to judgment, that he has a connection to the CCP. It's a lot easier. This is like, the old movies they used to show the Japanese on World War II, right? They had that very sort of Japanese kind of sneaky look, if you will. And it's just un-American. That's all I got to say on it.
Well, the guy's only been CEO since March. The board just appointed this guy. So I think the way to resolve this, Alan, is Lip Dutan needs to get a glass something and with a 24-karat gold base and take it to Washington and present it to Trump. And,
I like the Apple guy did.
Just yeah, exactly. By the way, I think that's like the only saying that a lawyer said, because it's actually Joseph Welch or somebody like that said that at the McCarthy hearing. Sir, you have no decency, sir. Oh, the other one I remember is you issued the code red, but that was Tom Cruise in a movie. So other than that, I don't know. I don't remember any lawyer sayings. But.
Well, when McCarthy was around, we still had a democracy. And I know we don't want to admit to it, but we are full on in an authoritarian government, and Trump has made himself the boss. That is how it is right now. And we can try to say that that's not real because it's easier to say it's not real than to acknowledge it, but it's real. We're here. He has taken over every branch of the government, including the judicial branch. So which means we are in full on authoritarian mode. The sad part about Mr. Tan is that, as Mitch pointed out, he's only been in charge for the last 4 months. And if you look at the entire population of CEOs that could take Intel in the correct direction, he would be the only person. And I am certain that he is doing the best that he can to pull this company together and to turn the ship. And we need Intel. This is not impacting just Mr. Tan. It impacts thousands of employees of Intel, and it impacts chip manufacturing across the board. It's a very serious problem right now for the United States to have this kind of conversation going on with Intel in particular. So this is scary stuff. This is real, and I am quite certain that if we checked on Elon Musk, that he would have plenty of contacts in the Chinese government and the Communist Chinese Party, as well as anybody else that's in a high-ranking role in any of these industries. So we have to check ourselves, and we have to ask the question: how much does fascism cost the American people? It's going to be a lot. We are going to pay a lot for fascism, and we're starting to feel it now.
Okay, look, I appreciate the emotion and the drama, and I think it's fashionable, and it's there's a lot of people who can hate on Trump for a lot of different reasons, But this is not a new issue with Bhutan, and to pretend that it is ignoring what's really going on here. So this was sparked by the fact that Cadence, where Bhutan was CEO from 2009 to 2021, pleaded guilty to selling and giving intellectual property and Cadence designed software to design AI chips and other chips to the Chinese government, to the Chinese military, and to companies that are owned by the Chinese government and military, for which they pled guilty and are paying a $140 million fine. So let's not pretend that this is just
Jack,
because he has
old news. Jack, that's
Yes,
old news.
wait,
and that
wait.
was in there, and they made him the CEO anyway, so they obviously
Alan,
decided it wasn't an issue.
the point is that this is not about the fact that he has contacts in China. He has a 30-year history of investing in companies in partnership with the People's Republic of China Communist Party.
Don't you think the time to talk about that was before you made him CEO?
Well, yes, I do, which is what? Wait. I gave you guys plenty of time, Alan. I gave you guys plenty
of the United States who stole billions of dollars in Medicare fraud.
Alan, I gave you guys plenty of time to talk.
Here.
I think it's fair to say to Intel, are you guys very sure that you want to get in bed with a guy to run the company who has spent 30 years investing in the Chinese Communist Party?
The time to say that was in March, not August.
And this is a private company. It's the board that gets to make this decision. The board decides.
It is not just the board that gets to decide.
Let's be clear. Let's be really clear, because you're mealy-mouthing this. They didn't say to Intel, are you sure you want this guy as the CEO? That's not what President Trump wrote.
No, he said he should be fired.
He said he has to resign right now because I'm the boss here.
Yes,
and that's not American. And if you could swallow that,
let's be clear something here. If he was a fascist and we were in a fascist government, he wouldn't say you should fire him. He would actually take him out and shoot him, or take him out and arrest him, which hasn't done.
Jack, should we wait for that, or should I wait till I wear a yellow star and I got to?
Oh, come on, Alan. Alan, you and I are the same.
Let me tell you what he did here. He did as good as shooting him, Jack, because he knew when he made that announcement, Intel stock would tank, and that's as good as shooting him. You're an apologist.
I am not an apologist. I'm a realist that says you cannot claim that this is a new issue, that Trump did this willy-nilly, that Tom Cotton is doing this willy-nilly. The man has a very long history of dealing with China.
And Intel appointed him.
And as Tracy pointed out, Intel is critical to the United States security. And it is valid as the president of the United States to say, I don't want somebody who is in bed with the potential enemy of the United States to be running a critical chip company for the United States. That is a valid concern of the president to say, if, as Tracy says, the company is so important to the country, which I believe it is. Okay. Now, I'm not saying he did or didn't do this. I am saying he has a very long history of not just associating with the people, but he was one of the very early investors in SMIC. He was responsible for SMIC becoming as big as they are and being as competitive as they are with Intel, right? And 40 or 50 other companies that I know about that he invested in that are owned by the Chinese Communist Party, that are in bed with the Chinese Communist Party. I think it is reasonable. Now, Trump may have done this in a ham-handed way, but I think it is being very naive to say we should ignore that because Intel board decided we should ignore that. As an investor and a stockholder in Intel, which I am, I have my own concerns. And I think it is fair for the country to say that somebody who has these types of ties to the Chinese Communist Party may not be the right guy to run critical infrastructure semiconductor stuff.
So Jack, should we bring him in to run the Doge? Because I'm sure Elon Musk has a lot of facts too.
Right. So it's a timeout. So it is clear that there's no real form of due process being applied here, and so we are essentially having a jury. We're having a jury one deciding the trial, put a trial together on somebody and indict them in a public format, and there isn't any formal investigation to go with that. there may very well be issues here that are worth investigating, but this is not the way to do it by certain, and not the way you do it in a democratic society. Second thing, and I'm going to step away from Trump for a minute, but am I the only one who thinks maybe the board at Intel is just flat out dysfunctional at this point? Because it sure seems that way.
I wonder
there
if
are
work has
factions
the
in the-
same issues.
Go ahead,
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah,
There
they
are
can-
factions on the Intel board, right? It's why Pat Gelsinger left. There is a genuine discussion over whether Intel should go into the foundry business, making chips for third-party customers versus just making their own chips, right? That was the reason Gelsinger left.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy came in. I remember when he was appointed, they said he wasn't as big a fan of the foundry business. And I'm sure there's a faction of the board that still wants to do that or not want to do that. But Mike, you hit the nail on the head. Jack, these are allegations. These are issues that need to be aired out. You don't shoot first and then ready aim. And that's what's going on here. They're shooting.
Well, I will simply point out that the shoe has been on the other foot, and the other side has done plenty of shoot, aim, ready.
Who's the other side?
Oh, look at Elon Musk. There's plenty of politicians who've called for and accused Elon Musk of the most heinous of heinous crimes while they were in office, right? With the same detrimental effect to Tesla and other Elon Musk stock. So let's not pretend that this is only one side. I agree with you.
But
It
Jack,
is not a good way to go
wait,
about
Jack. Are you trying to turn this into a Republican Democrat?
No, I am not. I am simply saying that your histrionics, while I understand them, are not exactly fair. We don't operate in a vacuum. Okay, politicians.
But Jack, let me tell you how we do operate. We are a nation of laws.
Politicians.
And I want to point out. Let me just. Listen. I would like to point out that Mr. Tan himself had no charges filed against him personally. Okay.
Which is a whole other question about whether or not CEO accountability is a whole nother topic we can go into. Name the last CEO that has been charged for the crimes of the company they have, right? But politicians continuously demagogue and demonize their political and economic opponents and for what they believe is right. And I don't think it is fair to say that we live in a fascist society or that this is Trump being a dictator. If Trump was a fascist and a dictator, he would not be saying, I think the guy should be gone. He would be making him gone, and we would not be able to have him.
He is making him gone. That's the point.
He said the guy has to resign now.
And what can Trump do to make that happen? Nothing.
Joe Stalin didn't shoot people immediately. First, they had a show trial.
Yes.
Right? We don't even have a show trial here. You don't think he knew by putting that statement out that Intel stock is going to take a hit? Are you that naive?
I think he knew exactly that Intel stock was going to take a hit.
What he did is as good as shooting them, Jack.
And Alan, if you're going to take that view, you have to take that view about all politicians who opine about
I do take that view about all politicians. I do.
All right.
We are in a place, though, is not, Jack. This is not normal.
There's a difference between all politicians and the guy who sits behind the desk at the Oval Office. There's a difference. Let's not try to make all politicians.
Let's give Tracy the last word here, because basically it is not normal. So Tracy, finish the thought.
This is just not normal, and we can't normalize it. We really can't. And every little misstep has to be, everybody has to speak out about these missteps. If we want to call them that, Jack, that he should have not have maybe said it out loud. He should have gone to them and spoke to them is what I think is what we're trying to say. Due process management. Due process is important.
We have process for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and to make that kind of a statement against a company like Intel and impact more than just the CEO is it's just stupid and irresponsible.
And you are aware
Regardless
that
of
we've been
what may be
investigating
happening
him
behind the
since 2020,
scenes.
right?
What could be happening behind the scenes is a different story, right? They could have been having boardroom discussions with these people at the board and sending somebody other than the president to speak out. This is not normal.
It's not. We have process in place for these kinds of things.
And there was a
when you
congressional
bypass
investigation
the
in
law,
2023 about this. And the result of the congressional investigation said that he had that Walwyn, his VC firm, invested $2.2 billion, co-invested with the Chinese Communist Party over 20 some odd years.
and you know what? So did Kleiner Perkins, and
Yes,
so
there were
did-
there were 4 other VC firms identified, including Sequoia.
and
Right?
Sequoia, right? They've all changed their name of their Chinese investment arms or whatever.
So it's not criminal for VC firms to invest in Chinese firms, all of which, including some of the best names have close ties to the Communist Party there, because that's the way the Chinese economy works.
Exactly.
But if
And
that,
if the Department of Justice feels that there's a problem, they should open a case and they should investigate him. And the board of Intel has to be dealing with that. It should not be a public discussion.
when you
Not in this
start
way.
short-circuiting the law and the due process procedures, that's when you cross into fascism. I'm sorry.
And where does it stop? Because next week it'll be Broadcom and Nvidia, and it'll just go. It'll spin
I'm sure
out.
Broadcom's on the list, no doubt.
Mhm.
Anyway, hey, we got to take a break. Let's take it down a notch. We'll come back and talk about something silly like DevOps. You're watching TechStrong Gang.
Discover TechStrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with TechStrong Group.
All right, folks, we're back talking about something maybe a little less contentious, but we'll see. It could be highly debated as well. But GitLab has a report out. They hired the Harris Poll organizations to go talk to a bunch of CEOs and ask them, well, are you actually seeing a return on your AI investments for software development? And, they are apparently starting to see a lot of progress. Productivity for developers is up 48%. Some folks are saying they're saving as much as $28,000. And more importantly, the CEOs seem to be firmly convinced that investments in software development are good for the business, driving value for the business. And Mitch, I know you looked at this report, but I'm just wondering, are we on the cusp of some sort of AI-driven software DevOps engineering renaissance?
It is happening as we speak. I mean, it is transforming right before our eyes. And we think of it as code completion and some basic steps like that. But when you talk to people that are using AI tools, whether it's kind of going down the vibe coding angle or more using AI as part of the development process, not just for coding and automating steps, it was a significant number. I mean, they talked to over 2,700 C-level executives in this study. And that what you mentioned at the end there was the thing I took most note of. Is it was like 82% said that they're increasing, or they would take half their IT budget and invest it in software innovation around AI, something to that effect. It was very substantial. My numbers from our studies aren't quite that high, but there's a ramp up and increase in AI for development processes. So it's bringing to light there are real benefits here. There are real productivity gains, and if you want to get on I'm not in the protagonist seat like Jack, so don't attack me on this one. But Jack, if you want to get on the productivity bandwagon of AI, I think there's a lot to be said for what's going on here. And GitLab was the sponsor of this, but I think a lot of vendors can make hay with these numbers and kind of do their own thing as well. there's some substantial benefits here, and we're seeing it in our work directly at the Futurum Group.
Right. Tracy, you seeing any of this? What's your reaction?
Blah, blah.
I knew I shouldn't have gone
You
second.
know, I think we could take that article and put a date on it like 2019 and change the title or the term of the technology that we're using, and all those numbers would be exactly the same. I don't really see a whole big difference yet. I mean, sure, I'm using AI to fix code. Especially Markdown. I have to do a lot of work around it. It saves me time. But every time we go through some kind of a evolution in computer science, it saves me time. This is who we are. This has been what we've been doing for the last 40 years, is we've been saving time and making things easier. Is AI that big of a leap? It's cool. I mean, some of the stuff that I use it for, I'm really happy about. Just as happy as I was when I wrote my first query on DB2. So, these articles, I think that a lot of it's, these studies and whatnot, I think I take them with a grain of salt. But that being said, AI is in a position, especially agents, which, everybody knows how much I love agents because they're hard to manage, to change DevOps and platform engineering. It has the structure and the bones for it, but we have such a long way to go. And the more I read these articles, the more frustrated I get, because I see hallucinations all the time and I want them fixed, please. Just fix them. We really do need to be thinking about how we can make the technology work well for us. I mean, I can see it in my code. It's like, that is so wrong. I can read it and know that it's wrong. So we have a long way to go. I can't believe it's helping that much, but it's in a position to make us better DevOps engineers.
Tracy,
Not
part
yet.
of the problem is it's a headlines problem. It's the 750 billion, it's the 28,000, it's that kind of thing. I know those real numbers. Yeah, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. To me, what I looked beyond that, and yes, they're planning on increasing their software investment, but there's some other key things said, which, for example, I'm telling vendors is we have got to generate secure code, not fix secure code after it's been generated. Because if you believe any kind of the multiples of how much code we will be generating over the next 6, 12, 24, 36 months, and as that increases, anything that's a manual process can't scale, because you can't have that much time allocated to scanning and fixing vulnerabilities in code that's been generated, scanning and fixing or addressing hallucinations, to your point, Tracy. Those issues have to be able to be addressed in order for it actually to kind of deliver the promise at scale of what AI can do. So I think there's some vendors that need to step up around software security and really address it so that it's done up front. It doesn't require extra work, extra steps, and human power to address it.
Yeah, and in areas that we could really benefit from, like we talked about Backstage being so popular. Backstage is a scaffolding for putting together your pipelines and your workflows. If Backstage is still getting that much popularity and is being used in that many places, it means we're not using AI to do a lot of this work. And that's the kind of efforts that we need. That's the kind of work that AI could be doing. Not that I want to see Backstage replaced, but I'm just saying Backstage is a good example of how we're not using AI to build DevOps workflows and platform engineering workflows.
Alan, there's some confirmation bias in this, I would argue, and I'd love to get your opinion about it. So C-levels, are heavily invested in AI and think that, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I mean, this is what they're reporting up to them. And, look who did this report, Harris. They have ties to the CCP. No, they don't. I don't know. But in all honesty,
wait. Before we get sued, Harris does not have ties to the CCP
that we know of.
That we know of, exactly. But I have here.
It should be looked into. It should be looked into.
When you think of companies surveying tech people on tech subjects, tech subjects, Harris isn't the top of mind. I'd expect them more to see a political survey, frankly, in Harris, right? So, and the other thing is, look, didn't we just have a show 2 or 3 weeks ago? There were another survey that came out that said developers are actually 19% slower when using AI to develop. It's 19% productivity hit. Who do I believe? I don't know who I believe. Yeah, the survey's sponsored by a tech vendor who's pushing it.
Look, guys.
You've come to the core issue, though, right? There is a massive disconnect between what the C-level thinks they're seeing and what the rank and file is seeing.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, Tracy stole my thunder. She was just off a couple of decades. All right, back in what do the youngins today call it, the tail end of the last century, right? In the early 1990s, I spent 2 years at Novell trying to convince the architects of NetWare that writing an entire operating system in x86 assembly was really kind of bad idea, and that we really needed to move it to a modern language called C. Right. And I talked to them and, train them how to write portable C and all of this stuff. And they looked at me after all this time and said, that's all great, but there's no way in hell a compiler will ever create assembly code that runs faster than we can. Right. And they can't generate code faster. They can't do this. They can't do that. Right. As Tracy said, we have been doing this for years and years and years of software development tools that enable us to get faster, to produce more code that allows us to focus on feature functionality and, as Mitch said, security, rather than on actually writing code. Writing code is the easiest part of the job. The hardest part is figuring out how to make the code do what you want it to do correctly and securely. And the more time, the more ability we can get developers to focus on understanding the problem they're solving and figuring out the algorithms to solve that problem and do it securely, the better we are than taking them away from the mechanical rote effort of translating their thought into code. That's better for us overall.
Here's the danger in this kind of study. Here's the danger in this kind of study too, is it's really, you can take numbers and use them however you want, right? You can make a spreadsheet, say whatever you want. But these kind of numbers could easily be taken by C-level or any kind of executive and say, oh, good, well, then that means we need half the number of people, half the amount of investment in your product company who did this survey or whatever. So there's a counterbalance to this kind of data that can be actually used against the people who paid to have it done. And I think you have to be very intentional about what the message coming out of it and not just make it sensational headlines. I mean, our numbers, and I don't have economic numbers like this, but my numbers are much more conservative. They're like 17%, productivity gain when you take the people who are losing and the people who are gaining. And, maybe it's 35. Maybe I'm being too conservative, but I'd rather be a little bit more on the conservative side than overhype it and fall into you were with all those people that were wrong. I'd rather be wrong by being a little bit conservative.
But Mitch, to your point, though, according to this report, it's actually causing C-level people to say, we need to invest more money in software development. They didn't say more money in developers. They didn't say higher.
Well, if you read it, though, they did say that people were still core to the software development effort. So,
and that goes to something I wrote this week, Mike, based upon what I saw a very popular post I saw on LinkedIn that I didn't agree with. And, the article is like cockroaches shall inherit the earth, because this woman said, if you think AI codes well, you're not a good coder. If you think AI writes well, you're not a good writer. If you think AI designs well, you're not a good designer. Cockroaches outnumber us 1,000,000,000, but we're still superior. Look, cockroaches have been around 300 million years, and they'll probably be here long after we're gone. There's an argument to be made we're not so superior. But that being said, what AI seems to be good at might, in fact, be the 60% of tasks that developers testers, security people, humans do in our day-to-day jobs, right? A lot of us in our day-to-day jobs kind of go through motions. It's relatively rote stuff, right? We don't get a chance to come on here and spout off on what we believe what's going on in the world, right? A lot of people, 60% of what they do is very mundane. And maybe AI does that really well or better or as good, but allows the humans to concentrate on those other 40% of things that require only a human can do well, at least now for the foreseeable future, 2 to 3 years. And that will be a revolution. That will spur productivity. That will justify these kinds of eye-popping numbers. And not just in software development, across the board. And maybe that is the lesson here, that AI can help us do, but is it ever going to write as well as the best human writer? I don't think so. Is it ever going to code as well as the best coders? I don't think, not as I say, in the foreseeable future. But if it does it good enough, let's not let perfect get in the way and allow the best coders to do things that are worthy of their time.
I think, Alan, if you spend a little bit of time with people who are using these development tools with AI, and I don't code as a living anymore. I mean, I used to, but I still do some things with it. I just took over an internal project for my part of it with a code base that was written through AI, and I don't understand the code base. And you just look at some of the things that I know developers do that I've done in the past, how much time you spend tracing down where errors are, where problems and issues are in the code, understanding a code base that you're not familiar with, you didn't write. Just those two things alone, and then I can see the productivity gains on my time, because it take me a lot longer because I just don't do this every day. It's just those kinds of solving those kinds of issues. To Jack's point, it's not about writing the code. Yeah, you can write the code. You can generate a lot of code. It's all the other things you have to do to make it all work and make it all work together and solve the issues that come up with it. I can see some great productivity gains. I mean, the fact that I could do what I'm doing with using AI tools is, it would take me a lot longer to get my skills back up to be able to do it at the same level.
Oh, yeah. I think back when I was young and I used to go to the bookshelf to get an encyclopedia book to do research. I would have loved to have AI. Right.
But I'll tell you, I still miss you know what? My world was ignited when my mom got my brother and I the World Book Encyclopedia set.
I know. It was awesome.
Man, I miss my encyclopedias. Anyway, hey, we're running late today because we spoke so much on that first topic. We need to take a break. Let's come back. We'll go to Block C. You're watching TechStrong Gang.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Hey, folks, we're back. And as Alan mentioned, Black Hat USA was last week, and Alan was at the show. So we're going to do a little retrospective here and kind of say, it's always interesting to think about what you saw at a show when you're at the show. But as you get some distance between you and the show, your memory of it and your thoughts about it seem to change. So, Alan, what's your take here as you're looking back now at Black Hat USA? Because from where I sat on the other side of the country, it seemed like that for the first time, there was a lot of chat about DevSecOps and application security and software supply chains. Most of the announcements I saw had something to do with that, but you were on the show floor a lot. What did you see?
It was Black Hat. It was Black Hat in all its glory, but it was a different Black Hat. You're right, Mike. Let me just quickly mention on software supply chains, I ran into my friend Alan Friedman, Alan, of course, is the father of S-bombs, if you will, the godfather of S-bombs. And he left CISA. And this was his first black hat, not as part of the government. And I'll tell you, he's working on something called H-bombs, hardware bill of materials. And shout out to Alan, keep your eye open for that. I wrote a bunch of articles. And as you're right, Mike, as time goes on, my articles became more, I think, introspective, retrospective, sympathetic. I will tell you, as the article highlighted here in your ticker says, there was definitely a subdued undercurrent of when's the other shoe going to drop? Budgets are tight. People are worried about their jobs. Companies spending, though, I don't know if you have any. I was talking to some friends of mine. Do you know black hat booths are 2 to 3 times the cost of RSA booths? There's a lot less booths at Black Hat. It's a much smaller, it's a huge floor, but much smaller than RSA, but it's 2 to 3 times the cost. But that being said, budgets are being cost. Almost every company I spoke to has recently done layoffs. There's been layoffs of just about every single company. It's not just the security people, remember, it's the marketing people, it's the management, it's product management, it's product marketing, it's everyone up and down the, even the media companies doing layoffs announced around Black Hat, right? My friend Rebecca Kitchens, president of Tech Target, and former Tech Target, they call it now. Rebecca was laid off. And she's been there 20-something years. She's an institution there, right? You're seeing things happen here that kind of, I spoke to my friends at Cyber Risk Alliance and what's going on. So even the tech media and the security media businesses are feeling this. I think, and it's not just security. I think we're seeing it across the board in tech. People are, there's no joy in Mudville. There was an article in the Times, another article that I wrote, not necessarily on Security Boulevard, but, the fun out of tech is deflating, right? A lot of us, well, me anyway, Mitch, you're the same age as me. We grew up in a time where people who wanted to chase dollars went into Wall Street, hedge funds, and financial and that kind of thing. But then there were some of us who chased tech, the startup life, the promise of that, the sushi's on Thursday, and all the perks that came, and the security of working in tech, and all that's gone. Tech is running leaner and meaner, and I do mean meaner, than I've ever seen it. That being said, though, let me give you the other side of it. Black Hat's about the people. It's another article I wrote. It's about the people, stupid, right? And I say that in 2 points. First of all, Jack, you've been in this industry longer than you want to admit. So have you, Mitch. Mike, you've been around it too. Tracy, you're more on the dev side, but you're involved in security. Coming to this and to RSA and seeing the people I came up with, Mitch, you and I, you knew most of them. You've seen the pictures.
Rich and everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. It's people that I've known 25, 30 years who are some of the top people in the industry these days. And seeing them and we're Facebook friends or we're LinkedIn friends. I see what's going on, but seeing them face to face, hearing from them, seeing what they're doing, hearing what they're thinking, it's chicken soup for the soul, right? It really is. It's great to see those people. But on top of that, I think the message is clear. It goes to what I said before about you're never going to replace the best developers. You're never going to replace the best security people. Because it's a thankless job. There's a lot of burnout. It's far from perfect. But, someone referenced Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. We sleep under the blanket. Our freedom, we sleep under the blanket that they provide. because they are vigilant. They are on guard. They are constantly fighting a fight that's almost impossible to win, but they fight it anyway. And we may give them better armor and more guns and weapons in the form of AI and everything else, but it's up to them who are on the front lines fighting this fight. And that's what security is about, those people. So I'll end right there.
And I want to say that when I heard that Alan left CISA, I was happy that he found a spot, but I have to point out that it's a huge loss for the government. No. It's a bad thing for the United States that he's not there. It really is.
Yeah, Jen Easterly left too, and of course she was denied a position at West Point because Laura Loomer, who was elected by the people to be the purveyor of who's allowed to work in our government, decided she's not.
Hey, Alan, I love your perspective on people, and I agree with you. And as we talk,
say that again for me, Jack, one time.
Come on. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Tech Strong Gang.
We should end it right there. Done.
As we discussed before we kicked off the show this morning, that serious missing it this year didn't go, partially to avoid being on the surface of the sun in Las Vegas in August is never fun. We are of an age cohort that is at the upper end and somewhat aging out of the working force. And, you talked about layoffs, and I'm wondering, and sort of that feeling, and you wrote a little bit about this in one of your articles. I wanted to get your perspective on sort of the age and possible age discrimination in hiring. And what
ageism is real. You know what? Talk to our friend. I don't know if you're ever on when JP is on, but he's written about this too. Jack, I saw some research, some article that if you're over 55 in tech and you get laid off, not just in security, in tech, if you're over 55 in tech, you don't have a good shot at getting rehired or not at anything near where you were when you got laid off. It's real.
That's of the people I know, that's been a very big issue. And, I wish that RSA and Black Hat and some of the other conferences that we participate in would talk about that a little bit, that people who are in their 50s and 60s are very capable of and have such a wealth of experience that, as you said, it's the people they can bring to bear. And for a lot of these people, it's not about, I need to have a salary commensurate with the last position. I was a VP whatever, and therefore I need my $250,000 salary. It's they still want to be part of the community and contribute and want and need to have a job. And bringing somebody in at not maybe a lower level or a lower compensation is not necessarily a bad thing if you can leverage their experience.
Yeah. So I would say DEF CON does a better job with that, Jack, than Black Hat and RSA does. I think DEF CON really does kind of honor the OGs, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And but it's true. But but you mentioned this. I'll go a little further. That is the problem. Is most people who are in their mid 50s. They're at the height of their earning potential. And to tell someone who's, made 300,000 or more, and I know it sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at what it costs to live in America, but you tell someone who's made $300,000 that, hey man, I'd like you to come in and help us. I could afford to give you 100. That's a tough pill to swallow. And it, but you pay for what you get. But I think we need to remember though, and it struck me really. I was invited Thursday night to a Cobalt.io, the testing as a service. They had a party at the Sphere I went to, and there was a couple of hundred people, mostly pen testers. A few journalists, analysts, but mostly pen testers. And, looking around, first of all, I was surprised at how many people I knew, to be honest with you. But, it is a young man's game doing the pen testing thing, or a young person's game better. And more power to them. And they're harnessing the best tools and they're making it happen. And Black Hat in general is like that. But here's an interesting observation. And Jack, Mitch, you guys are around the security business. Person for person, I see more people my age at a security conference than I see people my age, let's say, at a DevOps conference or a cloud native conference.
Or absolutely.
Right? So I do think the security industry, and this is a gut thing, I don't have any numbers to back it up, but I do think the security industry has done a better job of holding on to their OGs, if you will, than maybe software in general.
Well, here's an idea to throw out. Maybe not to make everything about AI, but maybe the last laugh of the aging population is we're the ones who will be training the AI as we turn off the light and close the door of our careers, right?
These people a career, yeah, that's ironic.
Well, I mean, long careers as we wrap things up when those stages occur. Yeah, I think there's opportunity there for folks that are a little very far down the road in their career.
Yep.
And I think this is industry specific. I've been working much more with the DoD and the DOE, and they have a respect for older people. They acknowledge their expertise and their contribution in a way that's different from the private sector. It's part of the culture, right? It's part of the military culture to respect the authority of those who may have done something before you. So if you're after looking for a job and you're in your 50s, there's a lot of money going into to defense right now. We can say all we want about Mr. Trump, but he's put a lot of money into the defense sector, especially space and Air Force. And
I usually have a lot of respect for anybody who can throw me in the brig. So that's how that works.
Exactly. That may be it.
We're not going back there. Not going back.
Nice try, Mike. Nice try.
But let me just close out the Black Hat stuff. Well, it is about the people. But the theme of Black Hat this year certainly was AI. What I thought was interesting in going from booth to talking to different vendors and people and so forth was there's definitely people who market AI, right? They have AI in their marketing. And then there's people who are actually doing AI in their products.
Mm-hmm.
And don't confuse, it's easy to confuse the two. But there's definitely a demarcation, a delineation between those two types of companies.
If it's on a label that's slapped on the product, it's probably not built in.
Yep. True. All right. Are we done, guys?
Think so.
We are done. Jack, for anyone out there, we didn't hit Jack with anything and we didn't torture him. He was not harmed in the filming of this. But thank you. Thank you for your opinions on this. I think it was good to have a multifaceted discussion. Thank you, Tracy, as always, and Mitch and Mike. Thank you for watching this. Hey, I probably did, 18, 20 videos out here at Black Hat, the 2 days of the show itself. And they will be available on TechStrong TV and on the OTT channel and the YouTube channel. So please do check them out. There's some good ones in there, some stuff on quantum and all kinds of good stuff. I had some great conversations. We've got TechStrong TV immediately following. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow with even more great TechStrong gang. Until then, this is Alan Schimmel. We're out.